And we are here. We are live. Role playing podcast, guys, to discuss Final Fantasy III. Continue our conversation as the series as a whole. I'm Dave, known as Awesome Dave 1337. Say hello, James.
Hello, James.
Thank you for doing that.
Hi, guys. Nomad, uh, Dave's co-host for the foreseeable future. Unless something crazy happens. But
Yeah, yeah. I have a clip of what you said last episode.
yeah, I'm sure you do.
Yep. Yes, I do.
Out of context for 100, Alex.
Yep. So, for those of you that have not joined our show before, we're just two dudes, love RPGs, love talking about RPGs. So we're going to talk about it on the internet. Because when you like things and don't like things, you talk about it on the internet. Um, so we're going to be going through the Final Fantasy series, playing them in order of release, and having an evolving rating of the franchise as a whole after each entry. Episode 3 is Final Fantasy 3. It's amazing how that worked out. It's almost as if, this was planned in some shape, way, or form. So yeah, so we'll kind of break down our thought. Oh, wow, I cannot speak. Our thoughts on Final Fantasy 3, and go from there. We do have a little bit of I guess, a rubric, so to speak, as to how we rate things. So really, we're gonna just talk about our experience with the game, story, music, gameplay, and an overall rating. Um, so I'll go first in terms of experience with the game. This was actually my second playthrough of the game. The first time I played Final Fantasy III was when it was first released as a pixel remaster in the collection a few years ago when they brought it over to um, Steam and then consoles, maybe like what, a year and a half later. Played it on the PS5, got the platinum trophy. Um, Playing again now on the Switch, which has become my kind of primary console at this time, mostly because Sony's left a bad taste in my mouth. Um,
Pretty much everybody.
yeah, yeah. Well, we can go more into that later. um, but yeah, so second playthrough of the game. Um, I first played it. It was a couple of years ago now, so still sort of fresh in my memory. But I've also done a lot of things since I played it. How about you, James?
So, just like the other two, this is my first experience with the game at all. Like, I didn't have too much knowledge of what was going on in it, other than what random little bits that saw from Magic the Gathering and its various cards across the Final Fantasy universe. I know with this one specifically, all the crystals in it had their own specific cards in the universe. So it's kind of nice to see all of those as I'm going through the game, as well as a couple of characters. Got to see them, and I was like, "Oh, I know that card." So it was a little interesting. It's been a cool ride, uh, seeing cards I know in the game and kind of now seeing where the reference is coming from.
I like to think that every time you saw it, it was just the Leonardo DiCaprio meme. Um,
Yep, 100%.
yeah. So not too much knowledge of the game. Not a lot of history with it. Unlike the first entry where I've played it, close to a dozen times. Um, but yeah, so James kind of went into it blind, which is kind of how we've been playing the first few games, which is kind of fun to discuss this with him.
Yeah, I've
Um,
been trying to like any game that in while we go through all the games for the podcast. If I haven't played it before, I try and be as blind as possible going through. not look up anything if I don't have to just try and experience it as intended. If I was playing it back in the day, I wouldn't have access to like Google to help me figure out where to go next, right?
Right.
So that's the whole reason for me trying to, like I said, as much as possible, go through without looking up things. There was one time at one point here where the only thing I did look up was just to see how far into the game I was, and that was just literally looking at a walkthrough, looking at the current chapters and kind of sussing out where I was and going, okay, I'm kind of halfway through.
Yeah, which I completely encourage with that, especially since we have been playing the first few games on a bit of time crunch, just because we're trying. We wanted to get a few episodes in before we start going through and perhaps sprinkling in other items throughout the episodes. Um, so I guess we'll get started. Where kind of what what RPGs are really known for, and that's their story. Um, you know, as the series has progressed, we've experienced actual story. If you all remember, Final Fantasy One really was just a game with exposition dumps thrown in, and then after the final boss, Final Fantasy Two was a breath of fresh air. There were characters with names. There were deaths. There was love. There was romance.
Passwords.
There was the password system, which if you go back and watch that episode, we both hated it. But yeah, so Final Fantasy 3 doesn't have a good story. Again, kind of traditional JRPG trope for a story, at least in this era of games, the original 8-bit iterations of games. Oh, you're the hero. You have to go save the world. Don't really explain why you're the hero. Oh, Luzar, you know things. um, but no, you don't. You don't really know why you're the heroes. You're just the heroes. You're just four wide-eyed youths, who get plunged into an exciting adventure involving crystals and monsters. Um, Yet again, crystals making a huge impact on the story. It's how the story's kind of broken down into chapters based on the crystal. Obviously, the crystals represent the four elements: wind, fire, water, earth. In this game, the crystals do also represent kind of part of the mechanics for the job system, which will go in later in the episode. But you're really just kind of traveling the land and trying to make right what is wrong with the evil entities that are going after said crystals. James, what did you think of the story overall? Looking at it from the lens of you played the first two games, is the story better than the first two games?
I would say this was very kind of cookie cutter still, where you're just hitting story beats. It's cliched to a certain point of like the RPG, standards of then, and it did just feel like a Final Fantasy game in that essence, where it's just, hey, you're a hero now. Here's this crazy thing happening. Go help everybody and kind of explore and figure out how to get better at things. And I would say it wasn't as difficult for me to keep chaining events through. I mean, there was a couple of points where I ran into more like difficulty spikes than other than just like, oh crap, I don't know where to go. So it's a little bit better in that sense, how I'll take it, where a little more handholdy if you want to give it that description. But I would say it's still probably on the same level as Final Fantasy II for me on the story. It, it had some, but come on, it just wasn't enough to like give me that little sparkle of like, oh, what's going on? Like I want to know more. It was more like, okay, here's the reason why I'm doing this. This is why I'm
Yep.
doing this.
Yep. You essentially start at point A, go to point B, go to point C, Go back to point B. Go back to point C. Oh, there's a point E. No, you have to go to point D. That's essentially the game in a nutshell. One big thing the game did do, which did it a few times throughout the story, is expand the overall world of the game, which is a good feeling. You look at it, you think, oh, this world is tiny. Oh, new airship, you're off, you're going, you're able to do more things.
Yeah, that was
there's another
thing.
There's a whole other continent. Oh my god, that's awesome.
Holy airships, Batman.
Yes. There are 4 total airships in the game.
Yeah, your first one. Sorry, so spoilers, by the way,
yes.
For anybody who hasn't gone through the story yet. Your first airship, going fine, and all of a sudden you hit a rock and you just crash into the mountains. Like what?
Yep. Well,
and then
yes.
Sid just runs off and he's like, all right, I'm gonna go talk to my wife now, and maybe I'll build another airship. You're like,
yes.
Oh, what?
Yeah, the story was a little, almost felt like haphazardly put together, but this also goes to the fact that, we touched upon this topic with Final Fantasy II, is that this game released relatively quickly after Final Fantasy II came out. Square really was pumping these games out at a pretty good pace for the time.
On that Madden schedule.
Exactly. Hence why, if you look at some of the images and artwork and sprites from the game, from the Famicom and the and whatnot, or if you have a ROM or an emulated copy, a lot of the assets from Final Fantasy 1 and 2 are reused at some points, which, it is what is. Games nowadays will do that. That's very common practice, which I feel like Square was one of the first ones to do it. But yeah, so overall story, I actually think it was worse than Final Fantasy II story. Mostly because the main villain. Is there really a main villain in this game?
Yeah, that is another weird element to it. There wasn't any kind of like villain that was just present and just like kept coming in here and there, or just mentioned once and then it's like, oh crap, now we gotta go hunt this guy down. It was just like, oh, here's the bad guy. Like, what? Where did this come from?
Yeah, in Final Fantasy II, you had the Emperor. Then you had his Dark Knight, who took over as the leader when the Emperor was killed. Then the Emperor comes back because somehow Palpatine's returned. But in this, you're just kind of going from point A to point B. Oh, you have a new kind of bad guy to take care of. Best example is when you go to the Molten Cave and you have the Fire Crystal, that little path of the story. You're going after Gusco, I think was his name, or
Yeah, something like that.
And you really don't know anything about him. He took the gnomes' one of their ice horns that they need, and so
I thought that was going to be the bad guy. I was like, oh, cool, bad guy, and then just
and then
after
then you kill him.
Yeah,
okay, and then another bad guy, and then the final boss of the game, the Cloud of Darkness. So it's just essentially what? Evil personified in a cloud with female body parts and gazangas.
Filthy ability spammer.
Who, yes, James did not like the battle. The battle is a little difficult, to say the least. This game does have some steep difficulty spikes, which we'll talk about probably in the mechanics section. But yeah, no, story, just, go ahead.
A little worse. Yeah, let's say like that's why it rides like the same level of like the story for me is just there's no definitive villain for you to care about or like worry about or just have in the back of your mind like, gotta mess with this guy at some point. It just came down to like, here it is. Like this is what this random blob of whatever is the main bad guy, and then you're like, cool.
Yeah.
And then you
Which,
go through the generic like, can't beat it now. Here's force powers, and now you can go kill him again. It's like,
yep.
It's-
So, you mentioned the game was a little handholdy, James. Um, and I'm having fun in all these episodes telling you about a mechanic that you missed or figured out late in the game. So, in any of the sections, when you have a quote unquote fifth party member, someone following you, like Dash, um, did you know you can talk to them and they tell you where to go?
it wasn't until I accidentally talked to one of them, maybe like three NPCs down, that I was like, ah, this would
Yep.
have been this would have been so much better at the start when I had uh, like that one point where you have to figure out to turn miniature
Yep.
to start doing things. Let me say that is probably one of the most annoying and worst parts of the game for me. Story wise, I think it's a cool thing of like, you miniaturize yourself down to fit through certain places, go to certain places. But oh my god, mechanic wise, that was a nightmare.
Yeah, it was a story. You know, because this is the internet, we have to assign things numbers. So if I had to rate the story out of 10, I'm gonna give it a whopping 4. I thought the
Mm,
story was kind of garbage.
you know, I would say for me, because I've been teetering on what to kind of give this since I beat it the other night. I en- I enjoyed two's story a little bit better, so I'm probably gonna have to give this guy like a 5 overall on the story. There's some things I liked that were in there. Like I said, the um, little comedic moments with like Sid and other characters were really nice. But overall, like, you kind of have to give a villain that you care about throughout the game, because it's kind of like in certain movies now where like if you don't develop a villain enough to make your audience either empathize with them or understand their ideals or their plight, like they're just there to be beaten and that's it. They're not giving any depth or complexity. It's just me beat bad guy, me done.
Yeah. Yeah. And, at the end of the day, that's what we're all about, being the bad guys.
Mhm.
Or maybe
Some of us
becoming
want
the
to
bad,
be the bad
or
guys.
be the bad guy, right? Excellent. Okay.
Excellent.
So, for this episode, I want to save the conversation for game mechanics as the last item, just because there's a lot to go into for that.
Oh yeah, I have a lot to say about
Um,
that, to be honest.
so we're gonna touch on music now. Music has been and will always be a huge part of a lot of RPGs. The Final Fantasy series is no different. Final Fantasy 3, of course, is the return of Nobuo Uematsu for the composer of the soundtrack. Um, Unfortunately, this was probably one of his weaker entries. None of the songs or tracks really stick with you as much, at least, as I would feel like any of the tracks from the first two games do. Are the tracks good? Yes, they're great. For the time that they were made, freaking amazing music. But I would say a little bit of a dip in quality from the first two entries. Um, Part of it, again, could be the pace at which the games are being released and produced. Um, Part of it could also be, when this game came out, the Super Nintendo slash, Super Famicom, whatever, was also being manufactured and produced and developed. Were they also focusing on that? 16 bits of gloriness. And is gloriness a word?
Well, it
Gloriousness?
is now.
It is. Okay, I expect everyone to start saying gloriness.
Gloriness.
Um, I have decreed it.
So it is written.
So it is said. Someone write it now. Um, so no, yeah. So the music, it was You know, if you go onto Spotify or whatever music streaming platform of your choice, and you shuffle through songs from Final Fantasy or Nobuo Uematsu or just in general RPGs, I don't think I've ever really had a track come up from Final Fantasy 3.
Yeah, I would say no, nothing really. Like listening to it through the gameplay, there was nothing that came up that I was like, "Oh, I remember this from just hearing random like Final Fantasy or music or just random video game music." I've had it with other ones. Six has had some good songs in there, um, but this one, like you said, that didn't really. I mean, there's some ones that I enjoyed, but overall, it kind of felt it kind of was like two for me, where there was not that many songs that I listened to that where I was like, I would enjoy listening to this over and over again. It was more like, okay, this is a decent song, and if I don't hear it again, I'm not going to be upset if I hear it again, and I'll be like, oh, okay, it's a little nostalgia.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think you bring up a good point. Final Fantasy, like, if you go to Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, whatever music streaming service, Apple Music, people actually use it, I don't know. And if they have the Final Fantasy music, you're gonna get Final Fantasy 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You're gonna get the more recent entries, and then you'll also get some Final Fantasy 1. You may get Final Fantasy 2. You'll get 4. You'll get the theme to the Red Barons, which we'll get to when we get to that episode. You'll get Battle on the Big Bridge from Final Fantasy V. Um, but nope, nothing from Final Fantasy 3. Just it was there. You can almost look at it as if in the other games the music was a separate character. In this one, it was just an NPC sitting in the village doing nothing.
Yeah,
Uh,
it played less of like that supporting role in my eyes, and more of that, just there to be there. Probably one of the weaker showings of Final Fantasy music in general. Because the series, like I've said multiple times, it does very well of having it be like an additional art piece. This just felt like it's there, and that's it. Like
it was
it kind
background
of
music.
yeah, it let me down in my expectations of Final Fantasy like music. I was like, well, maybe this will be the category that kind of saves it. And going through the game, I'm like, uh, there's probably a couple that I can sit here and just go, well, that was great. The Fat Chocobo theme. that was I enjoyed that every time that came up. I was, like, hey, I like this.
Yeah,
The last battle theme wasn't bad, but it's not really like anything that's gonna stick out of my mind as like slap it on a playlist tomorrow. It's just gonna be one of those. The music of the entire game itself, while it was good, it wasn't anything mind blowing. It wasn't anything that was like, I want to make sure I put this on some kind of playlist to keep listening to it because this is something that I know I'll enjoy listening to over and over again. So it's just a little disappointing for me.
James, give it a number now out of 10.
Because there's a few songs I did enjoy, I'll go 6.5 out of 10.
You know what? You went higher than me. I was only going to give it a 5.
Yeah, I don't know. Those few songs that I did enjoy, I think are just going to skew my rating up a little bit higher.
Yep. Speaking of skewing things, there's a cricket outside my window right now.
Well, you should tell it to quiet down.
No, you know what you should do, cricket? You should go play Final Fantasy VIII. It's an amazing game.
You should play 13
Mm.
with everybody's favorite girl, Lightning.
Vanille?
Lightning.
Okay.
I would have accepted Fang. But
We've got some time till we go to Final Fantasy 13. So story, music, kind of lackluster so far. Mechanics, the game. So, in the last episode, I mentioned how Final Fantasy III introduced probably one of the most important aspects to RPGs in their life. And that is a distinct class or job system. Final Fantasy III did just that. We have jobs, interchangeable jobs too. You're not just stuck with what you choose to start the game with, like you were with Final Fantasy One. I love it. I love a good job system. Also have to remember this job system is super old, so it's not as fleshed out as some of the other job systems like 5 and things you'll see in like the Octopath series and or even just the characters with set jobs in later entries as well. James, you were biting your tongue just now. I could feel it. I could feel the palpable tension through the internet. Please provide us with your insight in the mechanics of this game.
Oh boy, thank you for unleashing me on the internet for this. So overall, I think the job system is a good idea. It's variety, it's different ways to experience the game. However, I I I was getting the different jobs as the game goes on. I didn't want to mess around with it too much. I wanted to keep going with the path I was on. And I noticed that at a certain point that my characters were just hitting a wall of not being able to do as much as they were, or now they were doing less than they usually were, and I wasn't getting access to certain spell slots like I should have been. And then I started switching jobs to people, on certain people, and oh my god, look what happened. The damage is doubled to tripled. I have spell slots for spells that are higher level that I didn't have before. Oh my god, the game has opened up. So that well, it's a good thing, but it was an annoying thing for me. Like, why couldn't I stay as a black mage for my entire playthrough and do fine? It felt like I was forced to evolve the character to a different job if I wanted to do endgame properly. And that wasn't just for that, like for other characters, like I had to change my warrior to like a death knight to start seeing like progression and damage there. I had to change my white mage to, I think it was a sage, just to get
Yep.
access to like higher level spells, better healing overall. And then the black mage to like a magus, whatever you want to call it. Like I was just like, this is amazing idea, but the way it's like forced, it seems like it's forced for you to do, or you're just going to be like grinding your face into a wall to go through endgame to do it, was just bad. uh like it was just a bad experience of the system. So yeah, oh man, uh, it, it literally grinded my gears. I was so mad,
Oh,
just like
yes.
playing. I'm just sitting there like, I'm like, Dave says the job system is something I should be looking out for, and I'm really not liking this right now.
So yeah, so it doesn't really tell you much. It just lets you kind of experiment, which experimentation can be fun within
I
reason.
think if I think if I had, I don't want to say more time to just experiment with the different roles, maybe I would like it more. Because I don't want to say like, because of the way we're trying to get through these games in the manner we are, puts any kind of time crunch. I mean, it's 2 weeks to beat one game, right?
Yeah.
Essentially for me, and that's, I mean, it's not horrible. It's not like, oh, I got 2 days to do this. But it's, I don't know. I don't think that the system was implemented like properly. The idea is great. Like I see it, I see what they wanted to do. They wanted you to just experiment and go wild, right? But the if it was intentional or not, the little wall that they put in at like the whatever the starter classes, just like that just killed the whole thing for me. Like it definitely threw me off of like the whole system. Like instead of it being a great system, I was like, this is mediocre. Like I should not. If you're going to have a job system like this, you should not be gatekeeping the lower starter, we'll call them, classes at all. It should just be, do you want to branch out? Oh, look, here's these other things to branch out to. And don't get me started on summons. I I was like, oh, cool, I can put summons. Oh, let me put them on my white mage. Something to do when I'm not healing the party. Can't use them.
Nope.
What wasn't an evoker. I didn't know that until I looked it up after beating the game. Like, why can't I use my summons? Oh, summons have to be on an invoker.
Yeah. Yep. No, the game did not hold your hand at all when it comes to the job system, which I get. For those wondering, kind of the progression of the job system. So when the game starts, you have 4 characters. You start with 5 jobs after you go through the initial little like starter dungeon cave, which is like 4 treasure chests and a random encounter here and there. You have your warrior, monk, white mage, black mage, red mage. Kind of, your meat and potatoes of pretty much any RPG, tabletop, video game, whatever. We start with, obviously, they're kind of self-explanatory, especially with the Final Fantasy series. Uh, there are also 5 classes that were present in the original Final Fantasy. And I think that's what the game kind of did. Is if you all remember in Final Fantasy 1, you level up your jobs and you get, your black mage goes to a black wizard, white mage to the white wizard, warrior to the knight, yada yada yada. This game doesn't have that progression. It just gives you other classes to use, but doesn't tell you that the classes excel at different or better areas than previous. Because the second set of jobs you get Ranger, Knight, Thief, Scholar. Um, the biggest example would be like James mentioned, the Knight is quite the upgrade to the Warrior. Um, Better damage, better defense. Then you get the Water Crystal, you get Geomancer, Dragoon, Viking, Black Belt, Dark Knight, Evoker, and Bard. Um, Again, slight improvements upon some of the other previous jobs. Um, Black Belt is a better version of the Monk, and Dark Knight is kind of a subset of the Knight. Um, and then, as James mentioned, Summoner, Devout, Magus. I'm going to say Magus. Um, There's again kind of the Black Mage, the Black Wizard, White Wizard, Summoner of the group. I'm going to ask James a question that may irritate him. James, did you find the 2 hidden jobs?
Nope. But I did find Bahamut, Leviathan, and Odin, I guess. So I found them, got them, and I think my party ended up being Dark Knight, Knight, Sage, whatever the white mage, like evolution, we'll call it,
Yep.
and then the magic. So from like you said, it doesn't really tell you like the branching of what they could be. It just allows you to experiment. So you just if you want to stay on the same track, essentially, you kind of just have to guess.
Yep.
In a very educated way, which is kind of how I was able to figure it out. And then it thankfully it didn't do anything diabolical where it's like, hey, you just changed jobs. Remember all your spells? Don't have them no more. That would
Yeah,
have actually thrown me. I probably would have been like, Dave, I'm not finishing this game.
that would have been that would have been funny. Did you find the ninja class or no?
I don't think so.
Because here's the funny thing: the ninja class is ridiculously strong. You can pretty much clear the final dungeon with 4 ninjas with no issue.
I had honestly, my knight was the one doing the most damage outside of my black mage.
Yeah.
I had the boomerang thing that
Yep.
I found, and then he had like Excalibur in the other hand or something. So he's hitting for like 3,500. Meanwhile, my magus is like flaring for 46. So I'm like, solved.
Fireball, fireball, fireball.
Flare. Meanwhile, he's throwing boomerangs.
Oh, but so I'm happy you've had the experience of the job system of Final Fantasy III, James.
There's some other gameplay too. That I would say I kind of enjoyed the little exploration side of things you got to do with the airships, like when you get the third airship, the Leviathan, and you're able to just zip around to places. That was
Yep.
fun to explore around, and let me say, I am still upset that your gigantic airship cannot go over like a tiny piece of mountains without, a little bit of trouble. Like, okay, the depiction of where I am, I'm supposed to be like so far over the mountains. You're saying I can't clear these mountains to go wherever I want. I have to serpentine around the path, and oh look, it's a
They're
one
big mountains.
pixel wedge to go over
They're big mountains,
everywhere,
James. Yes.
everywhere.
Yes.
It reminds me. It was like I was thinking like, what if these are like Blades Edge mountains and like Outlands? They're just giant like spikes just protruding everywhere,
Yeah.
and maybe that's why. But I would also say I wish there was a little bit more to do when you like went underwater in that little area,
Yep.
because it's like you're like, okay, now I can go underwater and figure this out. And it's like there's only really one place for me to go. Like there didn't see really anything else that I could do while I was there, and it was I don't know, but I enjoyed that there was other aspects of trying to explore the map. And like you said before, it's you get stuck at like, oh, I'm on this tiny little continent. Nope, I am on this gigantic world. This is just a small piece in that
Yep.
world.
Yep. I will
Too much
say
water.
yes. Yes. Too much water. Thank you, IGN. Now I will say this was the first game in the series that gave you kind of the feeling of the world as a whole. Like you would think you're dealing with all these issues, this the whole world, and then you just zoom out and you're just one little James dropped his can. James dropped his can.
I was
Um,
trying to be neat and do like have the monster logo and the horde logo back here, but it didn't work out too well.
yeah. Um, but no, yeah, it gives you kind of a grand scheme, a grand feeling of like, wow, there's so much, and it's. I think that worked. I could only imagine what that must have felt like playing it, in 1991 or whenever it first released, and just all of a sudden the world is bigger. All of a sudden,
I just picture that mind blow meme.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Eric, not Eric Andre, Eric Wareheim. Um, but yeah, any other mechanics you liked?
uh, I would say the idea of having to miniaturize or even like Toad to get into certain places. Like, thought that was a good way to explore the game and like a different way, like different ways to kind of you have to go about things. You have to figure out how to do
Yep.
this. It was a nice little thing. Like, and you can kind of tell when they're like, well, hopefully they didn't get rid of Mini. And you get an NPC that hands you the mini spell, and
Yep.
like, oh, okay, I have to miniaturize. I got it.
Yeah. No. This game gives you a sense of dimensions. You have the whole little village. Was it Tonka Toka? That's
Yeah,
the
something like that.
miniature individuals. Um, so it kind of builds on a fantasy environment where Final Fantasy 1 and 2, yeah, it was fantasy. It was, swords and dragons and knights and all that fun stuff. Um, but now you've got this town of fairy folk. You have these fairies that are following this, you have that giant walking tree in that one section. Final Fantasy was, you could tell they were going towards more of a high fantasy feeling with this story and the mechanics and everything with this game. Um, I personally, I am a sucker for a job system. I also know what this job system becomes later in the entries. They improve upon it drastically.
Oh,
It's
good.
yes, you haven't played Final Fantasy V yet.
Nope,
Um, have you played Final Fantasy Tactics?
I have not.
Okay. Um,
Actually, that was a suggestion uh, from somebody was uh, if we would venture to do tactics
okay.
because they had played it, I believe, on like when it came out on like Game Boy Advance or something like that, or a version of it came out on like around there.
Yep.
So they were like, "Is that something that might be on your guys' to-do list?" I said, "Well, I think we talked about it once, but we didn't have any definitives of where to slap it in if we ended up getting around to it."
I would actually slap it in when we do 7, 8, and 9.
Okay.
Because Tactics was originally a PlayStation 1 title. Game Boy Advance did get two versions of it. Um, there was then now there's obviously the remake, remaster. I'm not really sure what you would classify the one that's on Steam and modern consoles, as well as there's other tactics-based RPGs by Square that also kind of go into that same motif and job system type gameplay. Um,
I do have a funny story for you regarding the whole miniaturization thing.
okay.
So, at no point do they ever tell you you can probably turn this off by now, uh, or give you a point where you can, replenish your mana to do it. Um, so I spent a good portion of going through the little town into the temple, and then out of the temple, and then engaging in fights while still miniaturized.
Yep.
Where my only damage dealer is my mage. So it was a very trying time, I will say. It's like there is no possible way they expect you to do this whole thing like this.
So another thing the game doesn't tell you. Do you remember how in Final Fantasy 1, James, certain items could cast spells?
Hmm.
Right before you hit that section, you get an item that you can cast fire infinitely.
Oh.
That
See, I had a whole bunch of those,
anyone
and
could
I've never
use.
used them.
Or and you can So even if you stay mini or whatever, you can just use your fire rod or fire staff and cast fire. Eventually, you'll get the consumable items also. What Zeus's Wrath?
I think those are the only things I've
Yeah,
in all of the games so far. I've gotten, those, like, obviously the ones you can use to cast a spell, and I've maybe used like two of them in like Final
yeah.
Fantasy 2. That was it.
Yeah. Um, so James, you seem to have the most vocal opinion about the gameplay and mechanics of this. I would like to know what your numeric rating is. Out of 10, of course.
A flat 6.
That's higher than I thought you
I
would give
would
it.
like to give it lower. I should probably give it lower, but I can see the vision. I can see what they wanted to do. So, given that, I kind of giving a little bit benefit of the doubt and giving it a little bit higher on the score rating.
Okay. Okay.
Plus a little bit of the uh, miniaturization here and there, and some of the exploration kind of. Yeah, I kind of have to give it a little bit of bump for the creativity on that.
Okay. That is much higher than I thought you were gonna give it, to be honest. So I'm happy to hear that. So my numeric rating for the gameplay, I'd give it a 7. I thoroughly enjoy a good job system. Is this a good job system? No, we know now. No, back then it was amazing. Um,
Like I said, I see the vision.
yes,
I see what they wanted to do. Just the execution was a little poor.
yes. No, they
That could
definitely.
be just a time, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, no, the implementation was not the best, which unfortunate, but live and learn. And Square definitely did learn, as we'll see as we move further on. Um, so that leads us to kind of the whole purpose of this show. Is now we've played Final Fantasy 1, 2, and 3. So let's rate out of 10 where we see the franchise as an aggregate.
I think, given the good things about this game and the differences from its predecessor, However, I think it's still a lateral move for me overall. It's not any better and not any worse than Final Fantasy II for me. So that's where overall I'm probably gonna have to give this game a 6 and keep it tied to, with right now with 2 as the bottom of the barrel for me on the Final Fantasy scale.
I don't think this makes for good television or streaming, whatever it is, but 2 weeks in a row, I will have to agree with you, or 2 episodes in a row, I'll have to agree with you. And I
Ooh.
think you said it quite nicely using the word lateral. It was a rather lateral move by Square with this entry. Um, they didn't repeat the mistakes from 2. They but they made new mistakes with 3.
And that could just be timing,
Yeah.
the system limitations too. It's overall, I'm hopeful because I see, like I said, I see the vision. Now, was it as do they do obnoxious things like give us a password system that was super annoying to try and manage and maneuver? No, and I hope that never comes back. Uh, and if it does, I hope it, like we said in the last one, it's more of like a Fallout thing where it just gets automatically triggered for you in a specific dialogue scene with different NPCs. But I don't know about 4 now going into here. I'm hoping we get back on track of you know upward scale of the Final Fantasy that I know currently with the, as you like to call them, the second gens, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10 2, and I know everybody is not a fan of 13 for its reasons. Uh, as I still like to call it, the tutorial then endgame. So, um, but I'm hoping for when we get to it will be a little bit better than this. Micro improvements, hopefully.
So Final Fantasy IV is often regarded very highly amongst the Final Fantasy series, as well as JRPGs in general. Many people consider it their favorite. I'm looking forward to playing it again. I did just play it a year or 2 ago as well. Um, but it is, I think you'll enjoy it. It definitely improved upon some things. Um, so there we have it. 6, 2 episodes in a row. So
Unfortunate, but
it is what it is.
not a overall bad game.
Nope.
But it leaves a lot to be desired. Would I recommend this to anybody? Probably not. The first one, sure. His first one was a good ride. It was had a lot of good things about it. These last two, if you want to play them, go ahead. Uh, Not necessarily something you gotta put yourself through if you don't want to experience it. I would say if you have experienced the job systems and the other incarnations of the Final Fantasy series. Doesn't 14 have like some kind of job system similar or something like that? If I'm
14 is
remembering right.
essentially giant job system.
Okay,
Um,
so if you
yeah.
if you like the job system in those games, give 3 a shot to see where it all started. But am I going to go out of my way to tell people to play this game? No.
No, I agree. I think it's great where if someone's like, hey, I'm looking for an old RPG to play and I've played a lot of them. What do you recommend? I'll throw kind of like, hey, have you played 2 or 3? Final Fantasy 2 or 3? Have you played, Dragon Quest? Well, now Now it's a little more common because they get the HD 2D remasters of the first three Dragon Quest games. But I'll throw kind of those out there. But if someone's just like, "Hey, I want to get into an RPG, but I want to try turn-based combat," I'm not recommending 3 first. I'm not recommending 2 or 3.
I would definitely recommend 1 at this point.
Yes.
It kind of has like a lasting experience on me of like that's what a Final Fantasy game should be. The others kind of haven't lived up to it as much, mainly just because I think they were experimenting on different things, trying to see what worked, what didn't work.
Yep.
And, from 2, it looks like they noticed what didn't work, pivoted a little bit to see if something else would work. And, we kind of got our answer. So as you said, hopefully things get better in the future parts of the franchise where it's implemented again. But you know, uh, overall, actually, I would say this is 3 was probably the fastest I've completed these games. Also, 1 and 2, I think my current play time is like around 16 hours for each. Let's check Steam here, and then I think my Final Fantasy 1 was 16.2 hours. Final Fantasy 2 was a flat 16 hours, and then came 3 at 12.2 hours.
Yep.
So I mean, not bad, but that's kind of like where like you said, some of the NPCs kind of guide you where to go, and
Yeah.
it isn't as figured out as the other ones are. You kind of can just know where you need to be at any point. I mean, you may be wandering around a little bit to figure out exactly where or how to get to certain places, but it's not going to be like I just spent an hour looking for this random dungeon. No, it's kind of explanatory where to go, especially if you're going out exploring.
Yep.
And I think I'd spent a good portion uh, of these playtimes doing the traditional JRPG thing, grind out some levels.
Grind out some levels. Put a show on the TV, grind out some levels. Yep. So, now, James, we were discussing earlier where we want to go from here.
Yes, I believe we came to a little bit of a decision just to kind of break things up. I know in one of our episodes we kind of called 1 through 6, Gen 1 of the Final Fantasy series. So, I came up to David earlier today and I said, well, what if, we talked about putting a break between 6 and 7, meme there, and then, and again, when we go from 9 to 10 to and beyond from there, and I said, well, what if we take a break midway through this, the first 3, hit a little bit of a different game, and then continue on 4, 5, 6, take another break where we play a different game just to keep things fresh, not burn out on the franchise either. um, and we kind of came to a consensus where things are going to stay in the same realm of the JRPG style, but things will be different, obviously. And this
Yep.
is a game I've actually had some experience playing before, and would be very excited to go back to now, having more experience with JRPGs, as well as being a little bit smarter than I was when I first played the game. So, uh, if you would like to reveal the game, go for it.
I would. The next game we're going to play is probably a time-honored classic. Emphasis on time. I've yet to meet anyone that doesn't like the game who has played it. That game, of course, is Poppy's Playtime. I'm joking. Um, no, I wanted to, go into a game that probably one of the highest regarded games of all time. Chrono Trigger. It is synonymous with Masterpiece for a lot of people in terms of RPGs and JRPGs. Um, Made by Square, art designed by Akira Toriyama. So we're going from um,
Dragon Ball.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're going from crap. Why am I blanking on Amado? We're going from Amado to Toriyama in terms of kind of character design and concept design. We're going into more of a not really an action RPG, but it's not completely turn based either. It's an evolution of the systems.
No, and what I remember of it, again, I think the last time I played Chrono Trigger was like 20 years ago from here, and I was on a emulator back in the day because everybody uh, either had the original game or you had a ripped copy somewhere to play it. But I remember I remember a little bits of the story, not enough to kind of give a full detail what's going on. But I do remember the gameplay being a little different than what we're currently going through now. But nothing like I would say is super out of left field, but definitely a different take on the combat system.
Yeah, and the nice thing about this is we may not get the same ending.
That is something I that popped into my brain of when you brought this game up. I was like, oh, okay, this could be one of those games because I've heard based on your how you progress and
Yep.
what you do, you can get different outcomes. So I enjoy that. Like I like that your decisions matter in a game. So I'd be interested to see what happens and what we come up with in the next episode to see, you know, what kind of what kind of different strategies we went to, or
Yeah.
what kind of different paths we went down that the other one didn't do. So it'll be I know it's gonna be a very interesting experience for us.
Yeah. And the nice thing about Chrono Trigger is I did mention this to James earlier, is it's easily available on Steam. Uh, MSRP is $14.99. It regularly goes on sale. I grabbed it for like $3 one year during one of the Steam summer sales or fall sale or winter sale, or Gabe wanted just to help people play Chrono Trigger. I don't know, whatever sale. And so it's available. It's also been released on the Game Boy Advance, and as well as it was on PlayStation at one point. As part of one of the Final Fantasy anthologies when they were re-releasing some of the older games. Of course, it was originally on the Super Nintendo. Um, but yeah, no, or we try something new, try something different, give Final Fantasy a little bit of a break, play Chrono Trigger, and then we go to Final Fantasy IV.
Yeah, I
Um,
think that's important for us to kind of
Palette cleanser.
take a little bit of a break because it is a daunting task to take on the Final Fantasy franchise in itself. So, like I said before, kind of to prevent burnout as well. A little bit palate cleanser, like Dave said. Take a break here. We have our first three games in, scores locked. Can try out another very prestigious RPG of it. I know a lot of people that have a lot of good things to say about this game, so I'll be very interested to go back to it, and probably I will remember some things as I go through it, but it's as long as it's probably going to be essentially a pseudo blind playthrough for me again. So, but I am looking forward to it. I'm glad it was available on Steam because I would have had to figure something out if it wasn't.
Yes. Um, and obviously, we welcome anyone to play along with us, join in the conversation in Discord, Blue Sky, X, um, email, carrier pigeon, show up outside our houses. Please
No,
don't do
no,
that.
don't do
Actually,
that.
don't do that.
Don't do
Actually,
that.
no. Well, actually, if you're gonna get rid of the freaking cricket that's outside my window, come by. Um,
Yeah. Let's let the parasocial relationships be at a zero, uh, or as low as we can be.
you're no fun.
Yeah, I like safety. As we're talking right now, I was downloading Chrono Trigger, making sure it's cell 7 on my laptop, which I've used as my pseudo RPG gaming system here.
Yeah, no, this will be the first. I fucking have to, give the Switch 2 a break for an RPG and go to my computer for it, which I already have it downloaded. It's one of the games I keep certain catalog of games always installed on my computer. Um, really, the first six Final Fantasies, Chrono Trigger, uh, Skyrim, KOTOR 1 and 2, things like that. Um, which
Yeah,
I do plan on
I'll
going to KOTOR in
say
May.
we, you know, there's probably like another game series we could be breaking into too. Um, you mentioned it a little bit earlier, Dragon Quest, and because I have no experience in that game either, but I know it's highly regarded as an RPG. So maybe that will be something that we touch base on if people want to see it. Let us know. We have all of our stuff, all of our social media stuff available. Just leave us any kind of, hey, why don't you try this game? Maybe it's something we haven't mentioned, something that you guys love out there. You want to see us play, see us, give our takes on, especially if you maybe have a similar, you know, takes on the games we've done so far
Yeah.
that like us, or you just want to see how different people view your favorite game. Just let us know when we'll look to try and get some of those games on our little to-do list here. But
Yeah.
um, I'll say
Hell,
since then, I've committed to my promise of getting my Blue Sky all set up. So I'll have that distributed out on Discord, after our episode here, and I will be also, promoting everything also on there that we do. I'll be dropping little bits of screenshots and maybe some clips from my current ongoing playthroughs, either be the games that we're currently working on or even just other games I'm playing while I'm taking a break from playing our designated game for the episode. So
you play other games? You
yeah, I got back into Dota 2
you
and
dirty,
it was
dirty
horrible.
boy. It's okay. I got back into World of Warcraft. Um,
I don't understand why you did that. I'm out. I haven't looked back.
I've
I hear all the stuff on
friends.
the current raid cycle, and I'm like, huh, whew, I don't have to worry about any of this crap.
I'm not mythic rating though. I'm just going slow and steady.
See, I I can't get on that pace. I'm either not doing it or I'm at full acceleration of how fast I can go and how much I can do. Like how much I can be at at best possible end game. That's just how I operate.
I'm also not tanking anymore either. So like
Well,
very little responsibility.
it's nice to be the DPS,
Yes.
or if you're healing, you just get blamed for everything.
Yeah, no, I don't usually heal. No, DPS it is for me now. But yeah, so
Yeah,
I think that's where we're gonna call it for the night. Um,
it's a decent entry. Glad we're going to be taking a little bit of a pause on the Final Fantasy franchise, uh, but definitely diving into something I would say just as amazing based on the information I've heard about it, and just overall, like, one of the greatest games of all time. A lot of people I talk to will slot this in there as one of their top tens or top fives. So I'm excited to go back into it, and I'm definitely excited to see what four also brings when we finish up Chrono Trigger. So uh, I'm hoping Dave is correct and four is better than the current last two parts of the franchise. So it's a lot of hope.
Yes, hope. So next episode will be scheduled for Wednesday, September 9th. So 9/9.
9-9.
9/9 will be I love that show. Will be Chrono Trigger, and then after that we'll continue into Final Fantasy. Hard to believe we're already talking about September shows. This year seems to just fly by. Freaking crazy. Before we
And
know it,
I will say, if anybody has any recommendations for horror style games, because we're gonna be hitting October after, if I'm seeing this right, the end of 6 will put us somewhere like in the middle of October or close to the middle of October.
Yep.
So if you have any ideas for horror games for us to play to do after our break from 6, just let us know, and I'm interested to see what everybody's gonna say. I have some ideas of smaller horror games to do.
Yep.
So we'll see. We'll come up with a plan.
Yeah. No, definitely. I'm excited. I've got a whole slew of plans for different times of the year going forward. I've got plans for December. I've got the obvious plan for May, which I already mentioned earlier in terms of KOTOR. So yeah. So, obviously, if you want to talk to us, find us on Discord. Links are in the chat, as well as all over places that I can paste them and post them. Find us on Blue Sky, X. Yeah. I do create an Instagram account for the show as well that I've been uploading shorts to. We're on TikTok, YouTube. Episode will go up on YouTube sometime, probably tomorrow, with audio going up on Spotify and Apple Podcasts on Friday, probably about noon. I do plan on trying to get some more streaming in of some gameplay, maybe of Chrono Trigger. I may start Final Fantasy IV sooner than later, only because it is a slightly longer game. So keep that in mind, James, as well. But yeah, I say that's what we call it, everyone. James, any final comments?
No, I think we've covered pretty much everything. A little bit of our future plans, as well as the typical. Just let us know what you think. If you share the same opinions as us, show up in our Discord. Give us some questions for the next episode, or even just say something. Hey, I agree with your opinion, or my opinion is a little bit different. Here's what I think. A little bit of discussion is always nice. So if you have those ideas, just drop them in the chat, and me and Dave are keep our eyes on it, and try and keep people engaged when we see comments coming in. So it's always nice to get a little bit of debate going too.
Yes, I'm a fan of the debate. So everyone, have a wonderful night. Play some video games. Take care of each other. Don't mention play some video games. Go Team Echo. I guess I should throw that in there for Race to World First for World of Warcraft. They did get a mythic first kill earlier today. They pulled ahead of Liquid for a little bit. Liquid's now ahead again, but not by much.
I've been a Liquid fanboy for longer than I knew they had a World of Warcraft team. So this is back when I played StarCraft 2 a lot, and yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to be like, but I do think Echo is definitely another one of those great teams. I'm hoping they can sneak a win in here.
Method was in the lead
Method
earlier.
2.
They were actually in the lead for a little bit.
I like to see the change-ups that happen. I mean, Liquid is just a dominant force in the scene there, so hopefully Method or Echo can kind of sneak in the win on the race for this season.
Yep. So that's actually what I'm gonna go do now. Is once the stream ends, I'm gonna go hop over and watch Liquid's broadcast. So everyone, have a wonderful night. Take care, and let us know what you think about RPGs. Bye.
Adios.